edition of Waiting for Next Year's CavsCast, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. This is your host, Seth, going solo tonight for the first time in a while. And with no guest, with a little bit of that freedom, I'm going to change it up and start off with CavsCast. Got that title for a reason. But I was at the game on Sunday, a couple of buddies, and that catch by David Njoku was the best catch I've seen in that stadium since I've been a season ticket holder. It's the best catch that I can remember throughout the years. And thinking about that game and thinking about the tumultuous start of the Browns season, just so happy for Jacoby Brissett, for David Njoku. Honestly, just so happy for all the fans. It's been pretty much a shit sandwich ever since that loss to the New York Jets. And for the fans that were in attendance, for people who were still watching on TV, I applaud the team for sticking together. And again, just felt so happy for Jacoby Brissett. He's played his absolute butt off this season, dealt with stuff that, frankly, an athlete shouldn't really have to deal with this year. And for him to come down and hit a game-tying drive with, under a minute to go, and come back out and have a chance to drive his team down the field, capped off with a Nick Chubb run. I'm just so happy for Jacoby Brissett. And no matter where Jacoby's at next year, if he's, somehow if he's a backup in Cleveland, which I think he surpassed that, if he goes out and hopefully has a chance to start for another team next year, I'm just so happy for him. He brought such a sense of calm and just leadership. I don't know the last time the Browns had true leadership like that, like Jacoby Brissett displayed this year. And again, just so happy for him. So we're going to switch over to Cavs, but I had to give a few remarks about the Browns. And at 4-7, and man, that was a pretty cool one. Serving up, Tom Brady's first ever loss in that fashion, up 7 points under 2 minutes. Just an awesome game, and again, just happy for the fans and happy for Jacoby Brissett and the way that they went out and really stole that game down the stretch. Before we get into the Cavs tonight, I do want to give a word from our sponsor. We've got a great deal with Underdog Fantasy. So for first-time depositors, enter in the code WFNY at checkout, and Underdog will match your deposit up to $100. Underdog is a great platform if you're tired of the DFS salary system. There are tons of game types and drafts every single night. Don't forget, use WFNY at checkout to get your first-time deposit matched up to $100. Now on to the 13-8 Cleveland Cavaliers, who are still the number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, only behind Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. Cavaliers are coming off a game last night in which they lost to the Toronto Raptors 88-100. It was never close. It was the Cavs' worst offensive performance of the entire season. They shot 38% from the field. They were 18% from three, 7 of 38. So they got the threes up, but man, they clanked them all. It was a tough matchup, right? Third game in 4 nights. It was their 6th game in 9 nights. They've had 2 back-to-backs over a 9-night period, which is just kind of brutal from a scheduling perspective. Last night, they only had 2 guys scoring double figures. Darius Garland had 18 points, 10 assists. Evan Mobley had 18 points, 15 rebounds. 2 guys in double figures, and that's it. Everyone else to single digits. Isaac Okoro, 1 for 11 from the field. Dean Wade, 3 of 10. Donovan Mitchell, 3 of 11, probably his worst game of the season. Karis LeVert, 2 of 9. And outside of Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, and Evan Mobley, it feels like the Cavs are searching a little bit right now, right? You don't know where the other points are coming from, and a lot of the contributors, guys who you'd consider in the top 8 or 9 of the rotation, they're a little bit off. Osman is a little bit off right now. Dean Wade's a little bit off as he gets back from a pretty nasty sounding leg infection injury. Bench from roll. So, they're really battling into where they're going to get some of that production from. And, outside of, again, guard Mitchell and Mobley, without Love, who provides so much to that second unit, who's their best three-point shooter on the team, who is really a glue guy, they're really struggling to figure out where to score at the moment if, Donovan or Darius don't go off. And speaking of injuries and speaking of Kevin Love, last night they were also without Lamar Stevens. They were also without Jared Allen, who hurt his back in a collision against the Milwaukee Bucks really early in the game in the first quarter. And I think Jared Allen is so underappreciated. I think most Cavs fans know how much he brings to the team. But the general NBA, Jared Allen is one of the best shot blockers in the league. Jared Allen is the Cavs' best screener on the entire team. And maybe most importantly, something else Jared Allen does that no one else on the Cavs can do is really fully unlocks Evan Mobley. So the way the Cavaliers love to play defense, right? It's Jared Allen protecting the paint, and that allows Evan Mobley to play that free safety role where he can just roam. And if you're a guard or even a wing going into the paint, one, you've got Jared Allen to contend with at the rim. And two, you've got a trailing or, a mobile Evan Mobley coming over to contest, if not block or alter your shot. And so, that's one of the things I wanted to highlight tonight is just how much Jared Allen does for this team. And him being out, it's really painful. We saw that last season. Down the stretch, the Cavs really struggled to win without Jared Allen. He doesn't put up the most points, the most numbers. His efficiency is a little bit down this year, but there's no argument to me for, Jared Allen being a top 2 or 3 impactful guy on this team, both offensively and defensively. He brings so much, and the Cavs have really built their identity around having him paired next to Mobley. And without Jared Allen, it's tough. So, any game in the NBA, we all see it. There's so much parity this year. Tons of teams are right around 500, just above 500. It's tough to win without one of your key guys, and Jared Allen is exactly that. Unfortunately, it was just ruled about an hour ago. He's going to be out tomorrow night's game against the Philadelphia 76ers, and Joel Embiid just came back. So again, it's going to be a tough game. And, throughout an NBA season, there's always injuries and things teams have to deal with. Well, this is one of those things, the Cavs have to figure out what's the best pairing to play when they don't have, Jared Allen, and what buttons can they push, what buttons can JB push to try to maximize the group. It really changes their identity, and it's something they're going to have to, figure out on the fly here. Really hasn't been too much reporting about when Jared Allen is going to come back. Sounds like it was just a contusion, hopefully a bruise, but really no new news yet. And the fact that he was already ruled out for tomorrow is definitely something that, I think the Cavs will have to keep their eye out on. Outside of the injuries and kind of some up and down play over the last couple of weeks, I wanted to talk tonight about the starting small forward role. So before the season, Evan Dammerel and I talked a lot about, who's going to start at the starting small forward position. Could it be a bit of a whack-a-mole throughout the year? And I think we've seen it be exactly that. No one on the current team has really gone out and kind of dominated and taken on that role. Caris LeVert, got a chance at the beginning of the season. He's since been kind of relegated to the bench. He's really struggling this year, to be frank. He's 35% from the 2-point area. He actually has a higher 3-point percentage shot from 3 than he does from 2. He's shooting 37% from 3, 35% from 2. And, the fit is tough for Caris, right? He's the kind of guy, he needs the ball in his hands. That's how he gets his rhythm. Having reps at the pick and roll, with the guy like Jared Allen really helps Caris LeVert out. And the way that JB deploys Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, there's always one of those players on the court. And so Caris is never really the number one guy who's initiating offense. It's always one of the 2 guards. And so that's what makes it very tough, I think, for Karras this year is, he's not the kind of guy that you go tell to guard the opposing team's best wing and go space the floor and stand up at the 3-point line. That's not his game. It's not been his game. I respect, what he's tried to do. He's been a good playmaker this year. He's been rebounding the ball better than he ever has. He's really tried to mold himself into what the Cavs need at the starting three, which is a defensive type player who can knock down and space the floor. Again, that's just not what Caris LeVert brings on a night-to-night basis. He had his huge performance in Boston where he scored 41 points along with Donovan Mitchell. But outside of that, he's really struggled. His last 4 or 5 games, he's scored in single figures, and as he gets downhill and into the paint, he's just really struggling to finish. His 2-point shot has really lost him, and it's tough. It's a contract year for Karras. They need some things to go right with him if they want to think about having him around. And I hope to see him rebound a bit. I do agree that having him come off the bench is the best case scenario for him. And we'll see what they continue to do at the 3. I think Dean Wade is a guy who they've played at the 3. He's coming back from a pretty nasty leg infection, so he's had a tough couple of games. Lamar Stevens is another guy that they've put out there, but of course Lamar is not really the 3-point threat that Stevens is. Okoro is another guy who has struggled with the shot this year. So I think if you asked Cavaliers fans one thing before the start of the season, what could be the Achilles heel, or what could be an area that the Cavs really need to solidify, it's the starting small forward role, and they're still trying to find it, I think. We'll see. Hopefully there's some stability with the core key pieces and what those players that can be available for the starting role, be it Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, Lamar Stevens, etc. But they need some stability there. There's no question about it. The next piece, and this dives right throughout the starting small forward role, is the inability to find great trends this year. Last year, outside of there was a couple of jarring injuries, right? Last year, Colin Sexton was a jarring injury. Ricky Rubio was a jarring injury. The injuries last year were they were more finite, right? Guys that were out for extended stretches, and then guys kind of came up and filled that void or took that spot up. This year it's been a little bit more up and down. Guys are out for a few games here, a few games there. And so, as you go out and look at the different lineup data for this Cavaliers team, there's mainly 3 kind of call it core rotations that have gotten the most possessions this year. The first being Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Caris LeVert, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. So their initial starting 5 lineup. Well, those 5 players together actually have a negative 4.3 point differential. Same with Garland, Mitchell, Stevens, Mobley, and Allen. Again, negative 4.8 point differential. Where they really saw some hot shooting early on this season was when Donovan Mitchell was carrying the load. Karras at the 2, Wade at the 3, Mobley at the 4, Allen at the 5, where their point differential was a 24.5, but very small sample size, only 105 possessions. So, all that to say, to me, that just kind of hits home the question of, that they need to solidify the starting lineup. They need to figure out what works, and it's been tough for them because there's been so many kind of ups and downs in terms of availability. And I don't think they've kind of gotten into that groove yet. So, more to come on the lineup data. That's the one point I wanted to hit on tonight was it's frustrating, not being able to really dig in and see much on the trend side because there's been so much whack-a-mole guys in and out of the lineup. And frankly, you would think that the lineup of Garland, Mitchell, LeVert, Mobley, and Allen, or even Stevens or Wade and Allen would have performed a bit better to date. But if you think about what really carried the Cavaliers early on this season was their bench. Right? Kevin Love had one of the highest plus minuses, of the entire NBA. He was top 5 for most of the year before he got banged up with his thumb injury. the bench unit really, kind of came out and took them home on some of those games. So it's interesting to see, what's going to transpire there in the starting lineup and what the best, data is moving forward. If I take a look at, the week ahead, the Cavs have some very interesting, matchups. They've finally got some favorability in their schedule, I'll say. They've got 5 of the next 6 games are at home, including a TNT game on December 6th versus the Lakers. For this week, they've got a really big matchup against the 76ers, who currently sit at the number 5 seed at 12-9. Again, the Cavs are in the 3 seed at 13-8. Joel Embiid is back, and he played pretty damn well last game, so I'm assuming he's going to be back. Again, Jared Allen is out, so it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to attack, or really how Embiid is going to attack the Cavaliers down low, and if they'll consider putting Mobley on him, or starting big with perhaps like a Lopez or Diakite to to try to combat the size of Embiid. After Wednesday, they have a home game versus Orlando. Then they travel on Sunday to take on the New York Knicks. But like I said, 5 of the next 6 are at home, and the schedule definitely eases up a bit as they get a little bit onward to December and move forward from there. We talked about it on here early on. The Cavs have one of the more favorable schedules in terms of the advantage in terms of rest, versus their opposing team. So that really is what transpires, throughout the next couple of months, where it proves out that they have a solid advantage of maybe they're playing the team on the back-to-back, or they're playing the team with only 1 day's rest when they have 2. That's something to, we'll be sure to keep our eyes out for and see maybe how some of the schedule normalizes itself. But in general, a couple of the key really thoughts, takeaways from tonight is, it's been a tough stretch, right? It's they're searching. I think right now they're searching for some offense. You really don't want to count on Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley every single night to score 70, 75 points, right? You need some of those other contributors. So whether it's Love getting back, whether it's Dean Wade, kind of getting back in shape and helping you out, whether it's Osman helping you out, they're begging for a couple of those guys to really step up and starting to hit some shots. It's been tough the past couple of weeks. But I will say 13-8, with all the different lineup changes that they've had, with some of the injuries that they've had, still being a 3 seed in the East, there's been some negativity, around the team and around some of their woes as of late, but it's a pretty great spot to be in. Number 3 in the East. Things haven't gone perfect for you, the past couple weeks, and hey, 13-8, they're on a great trajectory, winning 62% of their games. I think it's at this point, it's really all about, who kind of takes over that starting small forward role and who can really excel in that around, the core 4 players of Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen. Well, that was it. A nice short one from me tonight. I just wanted to touch base, and without a guest, just wanted to come on for a couple of minutes and talk about it. In closing, thank you all for listening. Have a great night, and we'll be back next week. Thank you.